Greetings and welcome to this week's CCRP update. CCRP Jamaica is a non-profit, non-denominational and non-political membership organization for individuals 40 years old and over. The CCRP was founded by Jean Lowry Chin as a tribute to her mother and the seniors who guided her company Procom following its 30th anniversary. Their mission? Ensure the talent, experience and wisdom of seniors are respected, to ensure seniors enjoy the quality of life they deserve, to empower seniors to continue contributing to their communities, country and region. This program is proudly brought to you by Juicy Patties, always serving the land we love. From serving seriously good Jamaican food to empowering our communities, Juicy is proud to nourish Jamaica in every way. In this week's update, we'll mark World Environment Day, observed globally last Friday, June 5. And our guest speaker is Mrs. Eleanor Jones, Chair and CEO of the Environmental Solutions Limited, Deputy Chair of the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica, and Director of Jamaica Protected Areas. But first, a little family business. Help us to continue advocating for the rights and assisting the seniors in need. When you are a CCRP member, you're actively supporting the rights of seniors and the elderly and assisting in our outreach programs. If you're 40 or over, you're eligible to join CCRP for a fee of only 3,000 Jamaican dollars annually. CCRP opens up a world of exciting events. There are excursions, socials, and wellness and lifestyle events. Members also have access to discounts of up to 30% from our over 100 discount partners. CCRP offers 2 health insurance plans underwritten by Sagicor and an international health plan underwritten by Lloyd's of London. There's also the BCIC J&J Silver Shield plan for motor and property insurance exclusively for CCRP members. For more information or to join online, visit our website, ccrponline.org. On next Sunday's program, to mark World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, we have a very, very special conversation. We will speak with Senator Shireen Golden Campbell about the findings and work of the Senate Committee on the Care and Protection of the Elderly, which she chaired. And now to the core of today's update. Last Friday, June 5, the global community coalesced for the annual observance of World Environment Day. And this year's theme was Inspired by Nature for Climate and for Our Future. It was focused on global crises of climate change, ecosystem degradation, the interconnectedness of natural systems, climate resilience, and our future. The timing puts us at the start of the 2026 hurricane season with eerie echoes of the devastating effects of Hurricane Melissa the Monster. We're now joined by a leading voice in that field, Mrs. Eleanor Jones, Chair and CEO, Environmental Solutions Limited, Deputy Chairman of Environmental Foundation of Jamaica, and yes, more. Welcome, Ms. Eleanor. How are you?
I am very well, thank you, Jerry. That's a fine introduction. I'm honored and pleased to join you in conversation on this at this critical time. As we talk about natural disasters, because it's easy.
Yes.
It's easy to say, oh, we have a disaster and it's a hurricane or it's an earthquake or it's a volcano, so it's natural. The event is natural. The phenomenon is natural, but the disaster is constructed.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, if we just think about it, think about hurricanes. Yeah, we use that since we are in the hurricane season. You have a hurricane going up in the Atlantic, doesn't touch land. There is no disaster. It comes on land, then you may create a disaster. You have earthquakes out in Siberia. You have them all the time. You have volcanic eruptions on isolated islands. No disaster. They occur naturally because they are part and parcel of the natural systems that make up planet Earth. So we have to consider what we do, where we do it, how we do it, because we are a vulnerable, coming back to Jamaica, we are a vulnerable island, and Caribbean as a whole, one of the most disaster prone and most vulnerable in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at it.
Yes. And then on the flip side, we trigger some of these even ahead of the likelihood because of the things we pursue rapidly, but do not consider the consequences. Let's talk a little bit about that, like how we love to chop down things and burn things because we need to do something. But we know that there's a risk of fire, that denuding the forest not good, all of that. What are some, just
Right.
remind us about why we must be more mindful.
Well, we have to be more mindful, and especially now we're talking fire, we are going to be experiencing this year an unprecedented level of heat and dryness, shall we say. So we're going to have water shortages, and we know that every summer almost a lot of our hillsides burn. And
Mhm.
whereas we used to look at wildfires in California or in Australia or wherever and think that we are not prone, we are very prone. And studies have shown that we are even more vulnerable now.
Mhm.
And so we have to ensure that we don't loosely release, burning matches or cigarettes or the kinds of things that would um, trigger dry things to fall apart.
Yes.
Now, well, as we say that, we have the hillsides around, and you also have even in your own flat areas. So we don't want to burn, because when you're burning, also you're releasing particulates into the air, which are not good for our respiratory system. So we have to think of the health considerations of all of that. And although this is a CCRP program,
Right.
sorry,
Yes, sure.
we're not just dealing with elderlies, 40 and over, and children, very important. So we are even more vulnerable to this. So we want to think of what are our natural resources and how we need to protect them so that they can protect us,
Hmm.
because that is the thing. We talk about biodiversity, which is, the combination of our plants and animals. We talk about ecology. It all comes together, and they constitute our life support systems.
Hmm.
So our heat, our cooling, if we have any area, and it has been shown in some urban areas right in this hemisphere, Medellin, for instance, is one good example where they've had a major urban forestry program. Trees reduce the heat by more than 4 degrees, they're showing, and they're showing it in other places. So as we urbanize here in Jamaica, and we're talking climate, we're talking heat, we're talking hurricane season, and we might say, okay, the trees, we have to cut down the trees. We don't really, because some trees help to absorb the wind and so on. So you prune the trees, but you want your trees for cooling as well.
Right.
So that is very important, especially at this time. And if you have nice big trees around and you see the effect of them and the extent to which people gravitate to sit under the tree because it's cool, we have to think of what we're doing. Also, in the urban area, the other thing we are doing is we are mowing down trees liberally and covering over the surface with concrete.
Mm.
And the concrete buildings are generating more heat in the urban areas, what we describe as developing urban heat islands. And then
Hmm.
as you pave the surface, when you're getting rainfall, the rain is running off rapidly, so your streets flood in
Mm.
an unprecedented way. And our infrastructure hasn't kept up with the drainage, but it is also what we are doing in terms of covering over the surface so that the water cannot be absorbed by the ground. And what does it do? It runs off
It
and
does.
floods and destroys homes, because we have so many examples of that.
Mm. Mm. Ye-
Creating disasters,
Creating
Jerry.
disasters. Yes. Wow. What are some of the things that you might not have yet mentioned that we should really be very, very mindful about when we're about to build? Because building will happen. But I mean, for instance, type of material, lay of the land, what are some of the things that we just don't pursue before we
Well,
commit to building?
Well, we should look at the area. We should look to see whether we are near to a gully course. We should look to see what natural drainage ways might be there and make sure we don't do anything to block. We
Mm.
should not be building on gully banks, and you see so many structures going up on the side of the gully, because you're putting extra weight on that gully bank, which will cause it to collapse ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
You should also, and one of the tragedies that we have seen happening, especially in all our urban areas, but Kingston is marked. You have a plot of land, you have trees, and whereas in the past we used to build with trees, build around trees, the bulldozer goes in and mows down everything,
Mm.
and then you proceed to put up concrete, and then you put in some palms or plants that are not even suitable for the habitat. We see where we're talking about the lignum vitae being in decline. Lignum vitae used to be all over the Ligani plain. But what have
Mm-hmm.
we done? We go in and we mow down the plants, and therefore we leave the heat effect, and we think that it looks pretty to have these ornamental things, but you're reducing and destroying the natural ecosystems. The birds don't have anywhere to go. You see the
Wow.
birds fly off. There's one particular development. Maybe I might not mention it in case, but it is in the St. Andrew area where they're overbuilding with these multi-stories. They went in and mowed down every single tree on this particular plot of land.
Mm.
And the woman who owned it many years ago told me that she grew up in that area, and her mother had planted trees along the perimeter, saying if in decades to come they moved on, they would at least leave those trees. Well, they didn't. And the birds left and sort of nested across the street where they could find. And those structures are there, not even finished, but the heat effect and what we used to call the uglification of landscape is what is taking place.
Wow.
So I would like to say we don't mow down the trees, we preserve what we can, and then we're going to have to, if we're really practical, we're going to have to go into more potted plants, because you can now get from the forestry department, for example, fruit trees in pots. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to try to green as much as we can. We have apartments now, you can do that. And there are things like roof gardens, there are wall gardens. We have to become creative in how we green more of our space so that we reduce the heat effect, because that is going to increase
Wow. My goodness.
beginning of the hurricane season. And it is, we focus on climate, we focus on ecosystems, but remember, we also have to think that when we think of environment,
Yes.
we think of not just the natural environment, but also the built environment. So
Absolutely.
our structures, our drains, all of the roads, all of these things are part of our environmental consideration. So one of the things I would suggest, and I do it myself, because insurance is important, but we are a very underinsured nation, largely because many people cannot afford insurance. So we
Mm.
talk about self-insuring. And one of the things that, because your roof is so critical to your house, your structure, you want to ensure that your roof is protected. So you check your roof to make sure it is properly anchored. And if there's anything loose, you do that. You check your windows also to make sure that they are properly sealed. And if possible, you try to get shutters to protect that, so that beforehand you have all of these things protecting you. So after the event, you are better able to pick up and go. If you're running a business, we talk about business continuity. So we look at where are we exposed, and you do the same thing with your home, with your community. What is the likelihood of any
Mm-hmm.
kind of damage? What is it? Wind? Is it water? What should we do, and how can we ensure that we get ourselves in such a position that after the event, we can not just rebuild, but that we can recover and get back to business like we had it before.
So we start
So
by
that's
thinking straight and looking at the vulnerabilities, even get the technical people to suggest some things, because with the untrained eye, we might see it and not see it.
that's correct. That's correct. So
Yeah.
you get your contractor, you get your carpenter, and also look at your water.
Yes.
Try to for tanks, if it's possible, to have water storage, so that it's not just a relief, but it is also something that will help you. And the same thing with your energy supply. Where a lot of people going now for solar panels, maybe you can do not full panels, not full service of the house, but again, get the technical people to advise on what I might do, because your solar will kick in even when, if your grid is down, as long as you have sunshine, which we tend to have, let's say after a hurricane or after a major flood event, and so that can help to get us going again. So we look before an event occurs. What can we do to
Yes.
reduce our risk of
Hmm.
exposure?
Brilliant. Before you leave us, there's something you mentioned in the preliminary notes, and I'd like us to hear. How do we get to seeing this document, and how should we read it? The CARICOM Disaster Risk Management, and they talk about building a pathway to resilience. Of course, it is
Yes.
inviting us to think a little differently. How do we get a hold of it, and would it be a good idea to have it in community meetings and so on as discussion pieces before, we need it?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, Jerry. I must say that I never thought about it, but it's a brilliant idea, and it can be accessed online. So
Mhm.
what I could do is send you a link, and then you
Wonderful.
could publicize it, or have a way of getting it out there for persons who may be interested in looking at it.
Definitely.
I think that would be a very good idea.
Yes.
And it came out of the fact that we have had so many events in the region. We focus on hurricanes, but floods actually cause a lot more damage and loss than even the hurricanes,
That I
because
understand.
you're dealing with, yeah, water, and then the rest of the region you have volcanic eruption. You have an island like St. Vincent, for instance, which has had hurricanes, floods, droughts, volcanic eruption, and then
Mm.
of course we had the health pandemic, all coming back to back.
Oh, goodness.
We tend not to think of health risk, but that is also something that we is connected to the environment,
Mm.
connected to our ecosystems, and we need to pay attention to that.
Wow. Mrs. Eleanor Jones, rich as usual, Chair and CEO of Environmental Solutions Limited, Deputy Chairperson of the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica, and Director of Jamaica Protected Areas. Thank you so much for this rich and very, very beautiful update. Lots of homework we have to do, and important homework too, and especially in the wake of last Friday's observance of World Environment Day, June 5. Keep well, and it was a great pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Jerry, and thank you for leading the discussion. As you know, there's always a lot to talk about, and I just hope that our listeners found it useful and didn't think that we were going over. But take the pieces and ask the questions for follow-up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's it for CCRP Update this week. Please draw closer to our community, no delay. Until next Sunday at 3 for all things CCRP, visit our website, ccrponline.org. Like or follow our socials, including YouTube, CCRP Jamaica. The Caribbean Community of Retired Persons, CCRP, is a non-profit membership organization for persons 40 and over, retired or preparing for retirement. This program is proudly brought to you by Juicy Patties, always serving the land we love, from serving seriously good Jamaican food to empowering our communities. Juicy is proud to nourish Jamaica in every way.